We see an instant rise in gun sales, usually 3 to 5 days after an active shooter event. AR-15s, those types of things.
You could say the spike in sales at one Missouri gun store is anecdotal, but the uptick is a trend we've seen after mass shootings. The day after the Uvalde massacre, U.S. firearm manufacturers saw their share prices jump, and those are legal gun sales. Meantime, grassroots organizations like Moms Demand Action have been pushing corporations for years to crack down on illegal gun sales. Their lobbying efforts in part led to Facebook banning gun sales on its platforms in 2016. But now the Washington Post is reporting that Facebook's ban gives sellers 10 strikes before booting them. The report draws on internal documents and anonymous interviews with 6 current and former employees. It goes on to add, quote, a separate 5 strikes policy extends even to gun sellers and purchasers who actively call for violence. 5 strikes. Meta, as Facebook is now known, says the report distorts their approach to penalizing people who attempt to buy or sell guns, adding their enforcement approach is part of an ongoing review. Moms Demand Action, the group that originally lobbied for the ban, says this news is not just shocking, it's incredibly dangerous. Here to respond to that strong pushback from Facebook is Washington Post Silicon Valley correspondent Elizabeth Dwoskin, who actually broke this story. Elizabeth, it is great to have you. It's an incredibly intriguing story. 10 strikes and you're out, 5 strikes if you're also inciting violence. What is your reaction, though, to Facebook's assertions that your story distorts their policy on removing users from the platform?
I hate to say it as strongly as this, but what Facebook is saying is pure misinformation. One of their communications people went on Twitter yesterday and named 3 distortions of things that weren't in my story, and multiple journalists, before I'd even seen the tweets because I was traveling, came out and said, what are you talking about? Everything you say that's not in the story is actually plainly in the story. And then I responded to paragraph by paragraph. So I think they're just very sensitive about this one. The reality is it is 10 strikes. Facebook on paper says you can't buy or sell a gun on the platform. The reality is you can do that 10 times before they are going to kick you off the platform, which I do understand they see as a big step, taking people out of the community. And there are warnings in between, but still 10 times. I mean, I understand a warning at 3 times. I understand a warning at 4, but by 5 times, you know the rules. So why 10 times? And then if I go out and say, I want to kill, God forbid, I want to kill Jewish people. And then 2 days later, I do a post that says I'm selling or buying a gun. They won't remove that. You have to do that 5 times before they remove that. 5 times when you've already said you want to actually commit violence, not a direct threat. If it's a direct threat, I want to hurt a specific person, that's immediate removal and a referral to law enforcement. But if I say generally, I want to kill a specific group of people, like a general threat of violence, that's a 5, you get 5 passes.
Elizabeth, let's be clear, too. Your reporting is based on an internal document at Facebook, right? This is not just completely sourced on interviews. This is actually based on, as well as on a document that was internally circulated at Facebook?
Yeah, some documents were shared with me. That's how I learned about this. And then I was able to confirm it with multiple people. And Facebook itself, by the way, doesn't deny it. They're never ones who are going to say, yes, it's true. Because why? Because they don't want to talk about their strike system. That's actually part of the problem, is their strike system is so opaque. That's why, if they were more transparent about what actions get what strikes, we wouldn't be even in this place of doing this story where there'd be leaks to people like me. So, I ended up confirming with a lot of people, and Facebook doesn't even deny it.
So, Elizabeth, Facebook, though, has 3.64 billion users. How realistic is it for a social media platform with that many users to be able to effectively police those users, especially if gun sellers are finding loopholes on the platform, like advertising gun accessories, for example, because that is legal?
I don't think they police on that issue in particular, and many others like misinformation. I don't think they police it really well. I mean, my colleague Naomi, who I did the story with, one of the things she did in when we were working on the story was she went out just to check how easy is it still to buy or sell a gun on Facebook. And she went and clicked in on some ads for gun accessories. And in a few occasions, they were like, hey, do you want to buy a gun? So clearly, like, if they were doing If Facebook was doing really strong due diligence on this, they would actually be going into those groups, doing the same thing my colleague did, and then shutting those people down. But instead, they're not doing that. And if they do find it, because it gets reported, they're giving them 10 passes.
Isn't there a risk, Elizabeth, though, of creating some type of chilling effect for a platform like Facebook to create, for example, maybe an algorithm that is used to go and look at private messaging or direct messaging that occurs between the users in order to facilitate those types of illegal gun sales?
So it's a good question. I don't think they need to create an algorithm, but what I do think they could do is they could have investigators that when they saw someone selling an accessory, particularly a person who's had strikes before, because again, they give you a lot of passes. So if you have some record, then they could do something like they could start messaging you and say, hey, I'd like to buy an accessory, and just see what happens. They could test the system to see if the people had good intentions or not. So I'm not saying they should be scanning everyone's messages. I think if you have a strike or 2 strikes or 3 strikes, it's perfectly legitimate for them to do further actions to see, is this a person who's breaking the rules intentionally or not?
And
I mean,
the way
if you wanted a safe service, what would you do? If you wanted your service to be safe, what would you do?
And I think the issue ends up being other services, right, Elizabeth, actually do have the 1 strike, you're out when it comes to something like this. And let's be clear, we're talking about illegal gun sales. So, for example, I read in your piece, TikTok, for example, if you post something and you do it 1 time, you're out. They take you out. And so it is viable, right, Elizabeth, to be able to do something like this, even with a platform that has multiple users.
Well, let me just say, and I think one of the issues is gun sales are legal in the United States. They're not illegal. And so a lot of people who may be selling guns on Facebook, there are probably a ton of people who don't know that they can't sell a gun because it's not an illegal activity. You're not selling drugs. You're selling something that's a legal product. But Facebook has decided, just like Twitter, just like TikTok, they've all decided they don't want to be marketplaces for that particular product, even though it's legal. So, but I do think the fact that the companies have different rules, TikTok is 1 strike, YouTube is 3 strikes, Facebook is secretively 10 strikes, though they wouldn't have ever shared that if we hadn't exposed it. It really shows that it is quite arbitrary, but that there are different possibilities for treating the very same behavior. And then again, I don't know how well TikTok tells us it's 1 strike. We have to stress test the system and see, are they really policing that 1 strike? They may have stronger rules on paper. It doesn't mean they are doing as much. But what you can see with Facebook, what's really interesting from these documents is that they clearly have an attitude of, we are going to do everything we can to not kick somebody off the platform. And there's lots of people who have worked inside Facebook who have thought that that was way too permissive. And those people, their voices didn't win out.
Elizabeth Dwoskin, thank you for being here. I would love to have you back because I'd like to see some of the follow-up reporting you do on that stress test, right? This idea that there's some type of follow-up from all the platforms, because I know there's no congressional action on this and that there's some lacking legislation that maybe would give some guardrails for these platforms. But I appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for your interest.